So anyway, we saw this. The dragon wanted to devour the child that the woman is about to give birth to. The child, as we know, is Jesus Christ. And we saw this in the Bible, the story of Herod. And when Jesus was born, when they told him that this king is born or whatever, he was all panicked. So you see, Satan was working there through Herod, and he ordered all the children in the area, under 3 years old boys, to be killed. So you see, right from the beginning, Satan wanted to take Jesus out of the picture. Right from the beginning. It wasn't Herod thing. Herod didn't know what it was, what Jesus, he doesn't have no idea. He was a goofball. But Satan was working through Herod. Satan gave the order. Satan was working through, and this is what happened. And but fortunately, and as we know that Jesus did, his parents, they took him out of town and whatever, and we know the story in the Bible that didn't happen. So from that moment on, this is the description of that, the story. This is giving us the actual character of Satan, what he was doing and why. Okay? Quick history. Lucifer, all right, he was an archangel. Lucifer. Satan. You had a question, sister, earlier. The 7, did you get all those? The 7?
Egypt, Babylon, Rome, Assyria, Greece,
Persian Empire. Okay, good. So, quick history about Lucifer. Lucifer, it's his real name. Lucifer is his name. He's an archangel. And it means a star in heaven. Lucifer, the name Lucifer, it means star in heaven. So he was one of the top angels of God, like Michael and Gabriel. Lucifer was one of them. He was one of the top. All right, and his name was Lucifer. Means star in heaven. So God gave him a beautiful name because he was very important. In charge of music and worship, he was the worship leader. He was in charge of the music for heaven. He was the one who made sure the music was being conducted, that God was being worshipped at all times. That was his job. But after so many years of worshiping God, he wanted to be worshipped himself too. See, his pride got in the way. He wanted to be worshipped. So he started an uprising, which failed. So he started an uprising, a coup, against God, because he wanted to be worshipped also. He didn't want to be equal to God. He just wanted to be worshipped like God because he liked that so much that he said, why don't worship me? See, this is what happens with some people with their pride. They get so big, and we see that happens in hierarchy in church today. In many prophets in history, we see that. Their ego gets so high that they want to be God. It's called God syndrome. Suddenly, somebody becomes a pope and he thinks he's God. Some evangelist suddenly he wants to be a prophet of all world, and so on and so forth. There's many examples in the world that we know, but I don't want to go on. But these are all these sub-religions, I call them. Islam started that way. Mormonism started that way. Jehovah's Witnesses started that way. Buddhists started that way. Many religions around the world started with the same concept. Concept was worshiping God, being a godly person, following God, pursuing God, and being evangelists for God. But then their ego got in the way. They wanted to be more important than who they were worshiping, who they were talking about. They wanted the attention to be about them, not Jesus, not God. See what happens? That's Lucifer, the same thing. Satan, the same thing happened to him in heaven. Alright? So, and then, so he started an uprising which failed, and in his mission, so him and all 1/3 of the angels were thrown out. So him and 1/3 of the angels, because he convinced 1/3 of the angels, to be on his side so they can go to God and say, that's not fair. We can worship him too, whatever. And God said, you know what, all of you, have a nice day. Bye-bye. Everybody's gone out, and he threw them all into the caboose.
Gone where?
to earth. He threw them out to the caboose of Jahannam. He threw them to Jahannam. See, Jahannam in Bible, Jahannam as we know it, it was designed not for us. It wasn't for men. It wasn't for mankind. It wasn't for us. Jahannam, the Hades. Hades, what they call it, Hades. Different words for Jahannam. Flat out Jahannam. Hell. It was designed as a prison for those angels in Satan. It's for them, not for mankind. See, God did not design that for us. God did not create or put this hell on earth because He was throwing these guys. He expelled them. He said, "You're out of here." He threw them out. And that's what He says. This dragon fell, and with his tail He brought 1/3 of the angels with him to earth. So, let's continue, and I'll get a little bit more details on that. Now, He's here on earth, in prison, in Jahannam, which is a very bad place. And he's mad. He's furious. So he wanted to deceive God's favorite children to hurt God, especially Adam and Eve. See, when he was thrown into the caboose here, the Jahannam, God had already created earth for Adam and Eve, and He gave it to them. So he's so mad, he's so pissed off from God, Satan, Lucifer. He's so upset, he's so furious. He says, okay, I'm going to get God. Well, those are His kids. They're created after His own image. They're special. See, humans are more special than angels. Angels are higher than us because they're angelic beings. They are spiritual beings. But we are special for God. We are special. God's best creation. We are His masterpiece. We are made out of God's image. We have the same characteristics as God. We are just like God is a Trinity. We are the same way. See, so angels kind of get jealous of us. Especially angels who are against God get even, so like, you know what? I can't get him, but I'll get his kids. That's how this whole thing started. That's how this whole mess started, basically. So let's go on. A little bit more details. So he said, I'll get Adam and Eve. Then that did not work because God already had a backup, another plan. Because when Adam and Eve fell, He figured, okay, I destroyed them. God put him out of the Garden of Eden.
Eden.
Yeah. What is it?
Eden.
God put him out because of there's a tree of life. So He didn't want them to eat from there in their sin bodies. He said, you stay out now, but you have to work and He gave him all these instructions, as we know. I don't want to go through the whole Bible right now, but we kind of follow what's going on. So Satan now, he says, okay, this didn't work. So he wants to stop the mankind growth by convincing Cain to kill Abel, his brother. So the children of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, God and Eve, so he wanted to make sure that the mankind will not continue. He convinced Cain, that Satan's work again, by the way, just follow. See, I want you to follow this, how Satan from the beginning is working in this plan. He got into Cain, he convinced Cain to kill his brother. So by killing his brother, he figures, okay, that's it, the lineage, because you see, there's a lineage, and Satan knows the plan, kind of. Not sure, but he knows kind of plan that there's a Messiah going to come, because that's how God works. Remember, he's an archangel, so he knows God's plans or how God works. So he says, okay, if I get rid of this Abel, because that's God. See, God has a favor for Abel. God likes Abel. That means God has a plan with him. Let me get rid of him. We'll stop God's plan. So he had Cain kill Abel to stop God's plan. God had another plan. He brought another brother called Seth. So Seth continued on the lineage, took over where Abel was going to continue. Are we following this to see what's going on? This is all Satan's work. Watch this. It's very important, guys. then Seth came, countered Lucifer's move. Then children of Cain intermarried with fallen angels. See, now children of Cain intermarried with fallen angels, which was not supposed to happen. Why they did that? So now we have half-breed. Okay? We have bad seed children. And you see, all these because sin entered mankind. You see, when there's these half-breeds, now there's these giants are being born. You got all these dinosaurs and everything else that it wasn't part of the plan. Okay? All this has started happening because Satan is trying to stop mankind's growth according to what God wanted. So he wanted to put a stumbling block. He used Cain's children. As you remember in the book of Genesis, the fallen angels took liking into Cain's children, the descendants of Cain, and intermarried them, the women, the girls, and now they started having these offspring. So this is a bad seed. So the DNA started changing. Okay, so the DNA is no good anymore. So God had to do another plan whatever, B, C, where we are, I don't know. So now. See, because it said, first the angels in the universe, then us. So God had to do a cleanup. You see, first the angel, sin entered Satan in the angels. First that's pride, which is sin. The pride entered Satan, Lucifer. That's how he convinced 1/3 of the angels. So even in heaven, the sin is entered. Even in heaven, we have sin. Okay, because of the angelic. Sin had entered. And then they're all thrown down to earth. Now the sin is continuing over here and it's multiplying, it's growing. So God says something, I have to cleanse the earth. I got to clean this up. So that's when he found a good man in his family and preserved them with the great flood. So he got Noah, he gave him 120 years. He said, get preaching and get as many as possible that we can save the clean ones. So basically he just managed to save his own family and all the good animals pretty much that God approved of, that man will be having domain over, meaning that's what God's original plan creation were, not the offsprings of other things that happen later. Okay, are we following this? So much stuff here, I know, it's a lot. So now we have the flood, the cleansing. See, water washed it all, cleaned it all out, got rid of all the mess. Now we have a pure new life starting, new beginning. There we see Lucifer working hard not to let God establish his people and not to let Jesus to be born as planned through Israel. So now, right after Abraham, from Noah, we got Abraham and so on and so forth. And now we know God has established his own people. And so now Lucifer, or Satan, he saw what's happening, so he's doing everything possible to stop the nation of Israel from growing, so he basically wanted to demolish the nation of Israel. His plan was to get rid of the nation of Israel from the beginning, so because if there's no nation of Israel, Jesus cannot come. The Messiah will not come. Alright? That's his plan. But God always, 1 step or 2 steps or 4 steps ahead of him. So, if Satan goes this much, God already has another plan way in advance. Boom, counter it, and it's all taken care of. So, make sure all the nations will always be against Israel. That's what Satan was doing all the time. No matter, you should read the whole history. Every nation around Israel were against him. Always, until today. Why? The same plan. The same thing. Are we following? See where we're going with this? Why Israel has always been hated. Why they are so hated by everybody. From everybody. All their neighbors. All over the world. Nobody likes them. Because Satan is working hard. He wants to get rid of them completely. He does it so many times. All the way with Hitler. All these things is through Satan's work to stop a nation of Israel from being a nation of Israel. So the Messiah, even remember, Jesus to come back for a second time, we still have to have the temple, we still have to have the nation of Israel. So all this is still in picture. So nothing has changed. Satan is still working to stop because he knows his time is running out. His time clock is tick, 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 tick. It's almost over and he's done. So he's like, I'm going to do the best I can to get rid